The uncertainty of Ted DiBiase Jr.'s lead attorney, Scott Gilbert, is the big issue in all of this right now due to his health issues. There are more attorneys on the defense. However, they say they are not prepared to step in and take over this case, including Eric Hirschman. He says it would be impossible for him to take over at this time. He spent the day asking for a mistrial, saying since Gilbert is sick, DiBiase should have the right to pick
money, I come from class. They love the story, they love the past. Won't let a courtroom spoil my dream, cause I got money and I can do anything.
Welcome to the Tea Drop, and today's tea, the federal trial almost got thrown away entirely this week. Not delayed, not slowed down, a reset. So stop scrolling, because on January 14th of this year, the federal trial almost got wiped off the board. Ted DiBiase Jr. welfare fraud trial didn't just pause. The defense straight up asked the judge to throw the whole trial out. Not speculation, not rumors. This is confirmed by WLBT and WLTV and Mississippi Today. So let's take a look.
For Ted DiBiase Jr. is now paused after his lead attorney went to a hospital. Now the defense is asking for a mistrial in this case. Former pro wrestler Ted DiBiase Jr. is accused of stealing your tax dollars in the state's largest embezzlement scandal. As 3 News Side's Quentin Smith reports, the judge must now decide if this trial can continue or if it starts all over again.
The uncertainty of Ted DiBiase Jr.'s lead attorney, Scott Gilbert, is the big issue in all of this right now due to his health issues. There are more attorneys on the defense. However, they say they are not prepared to step in and take over this case, including Eric Hirschman. He says it would be impossible for him to take over at this time. He spent the day asking for a mistrial, saying since Gilbert is sick, DiBiase should have the right to pick another attorney of his choice.
So his lead lawyer, who's been studying the whole case for the past 6 years, pretty much got sick this past week and apparently collapsed. And during trial this past couple of days, and he's been in the hospital, and they're asking for not to pause the whole trial, but to pretty much call a mistrial. And we'll go through what that means if they do that. But yeah, they were trying to go for a mistrial. Let's continue.
Everything dates back to last Wednesday. That's when Gilbert became sick and checked into a hospital. Doctors will evaluate him over the next 3 to 4 weeks. From there, they will decide whether Gilbert should stay on the trial. However, prosecutors say they want the trial to continue, and they're asking for another defense attorney to step in. The prosecution points to the fact that their star witness, John Davis, who admitted to directing the money to go to DiBiase, is undergoing chemo treatment for cancer, and they are not sure if he'd be able to return and testify.
So everyone apparently is getting sick as this trial started. So the main lawyer got sick. Ted DiBiase has two sides. So it's the main lawyer and the people helping the main lawyer. But to Ted DiBiase's case, he believes that the main lawyer knows everything in and out. The two younger lawyers or below him don't fully know the case to properly defend him. And now the key witness over here, he apparently been going through chemo, and he may not be able to return, which I count BS, because if you're going through the chemo, I don't know the chemo thing, but like if he's already been doing the trial, you're telling me before this whole trial started you didn't tell anyone, and now all of a sudden you're telling everyone?
If there was a mistrial, DiBiase, he's accused of pocketing more than $2 million in...
No, the other lawyers know the information, but I guess they don't know fully the strategy that the main lawyer did. Not sure. As far as we know, Ted DiBiase's team does not feel comfortable with the main lawyer out because the other two may not be able to handle the case as well. And it could have been, maybe they thought at first, but maybe after this trial started and the way things were going, maybe they don't feel comfortable that the other two can do it on their own.
welfare funds and then using that money to buy a boat and a home in Madison County. Keep in mind, we are 7 days into this trial. If the judge does grant a mistrial, that means things would start over from scratch. The judge says he's
Aha! Mistrial. Meaning, you got to start the whole thing from scratch. Keep that in mind.
going to take everything into consideration before making his decision, but as things currently stand, the trial is now paused until further notice. The judge did not give a timeline on when he plans to make his decision. Reporting from outside the federal courthouse, I'm Quentin Smith.
Quentin Smith's the man. He's been helping me do this thing with you guys. I'm just kidding. He don't even know I exist. Anyway, is this story... Yep, we can put this picture up. There we go. Let me put myself bigger too while we're at it. Unlock myself. There we go. All right. So, as you see, the lead defense attorney was hospitalized in the middle of the trial. Now, let's be clear something up real quick. A mistrial isn't really a delay. It's not a rain check, and a mistrial means a whole new jury, a whole new set of opening statements, new witnesses. Basically, you start this whole thing from zero. Everything that they've done up to this week will be thrown away, and they have to start the whole case over. They have to go through new witnesses and so forth. In a case this massive, that is a nuclear option. And on January 14th, that option officially hit the table. And according to the news outlets like WJTV and WLBT, during the second week of the testimony, lead defense attorney Scott Gilbert became ill and checked himself into a hospital. Court recessed, jurors were sent home, and trial stopped cold. Now, I did say last week that the judge was pausing the case on Thursday. They originally had a case on Wednesday. Then they paused it on Thursday of last week. And then on Friday, I didn't get no updates on the case. And the judge was saying it's because he wanted to focus and finish off another trial that was getting almost done, and then he'll come back to this case. Maybe that's true, but it sounds like it's also could have been also due to this, but we will never know that part of the story. So doctors say it would take 3 to 4 weeks just to determine whether the lawyer, Gilbert, could even return. And that uncertainty immediately became the center of the case. On January 20th, the defense officially asked for a mistrial. This is reported by news outlets, and attorney Eric Hirschman told the court there's no attorney capable of stepping in right now. So there you go about that. Why? Because this case involves over 6 million pages of discovery, of facts, of information based on all this trial. And because Gilbert had been preparing his defense for nearly 6 years, the defense argued that forcing DiBiase to continue without him would violate the Sixth Amendment right to counsel of his choice. Now, federal prosecutors immediately pushed back. According to court filings and reporting from WLBT, the government argued DiBiase still had 2 attorneys on his team. Both were capable. The trial should continue. Then they dropped the pressure point. Their star witness, John Davis, who we talked about tremendously last week, formed, and if for those that don't know, he's a former executive director of the Mississippi Department of Human Services, MDHS. As far as some people know, he is the main ringleader of this whole operation that's been spanning beyond even Ted DiBiase. Apparently, he is currently undergoing chemotherapy for cancer. Prosecutors said if the trial restarted months later, there's no guarantee Davis could testify again. Translation, delay could cripple the case. Quick reset for new viewers, though. This case exists because federal prosecutors allege more than $77 million in Mississippi welfare funds were misused. According to the U.S. Department of Justice and WJTV, money from programs like TANF and TEFAP was routed through nonprofits run by Nancy New and Christy Webb, who pled guilty already. Prosecutors say those nonprofits issue sham contracts, including at least 5 contracts for Ted DiBiase Jr. And DiBiase denies wrongdoing and says he was a legitimate contractor. That's the background for this story, for those that are new. Back to the mistrial fight. Here's what made this explosive this week. Scott Gilbert didn't get sick during opening arguments. According to the news outlets, he collapsed mid-cross-examination of John Davis, the government's star witness for this case, who's going through chemotherapy. Hirschman told the court that Gilbert's questioning was so effective that prosecutors considered treating Davis as a hostile witness, allegedly. Pulling this lead attorney at that moment would create chaos. That's just bad timing at this point, and that's potentially case altering. So on January 21st, Judge Carlton Reeves says a mistrial is not required under the Constitution or Fifth Circuit precedent. This is confirmed by the news outlets regarding that. Then on January 23rd, a few days ago, Reeves officially rules the trial will continue. The jury stays, no reset. However, he did grant a continuance, which basically means they will pause the case until a further date. So now the case is paused for the rest of this month, for about a month to be honest, and the new resumed date for this case will be February 23rd of this year. The mistrial wasn't a footnote. This was the defense's biggest swing so far. If the judge said yes, everything disappears. He says no, same jury. He basically said yes, and same jury, same charges, same stakes. Ted DiBiase Jr. still faces 13 federal counts per DOJ. Everybody else in this scandal already pleaded or cut deals for this case, including John Davis. He's the last one fighting. February 23rd is the continuance date. That's when things come back alive. That's when we can probably continue with more updates. So for now, this will be it for us when it comes to Ted DiBiase until further notice. So let me know what you guys think in the comments about the Ted DiBiase trial. I'll see you on the next one in about a month from now. So no soft behavior, no do-overs. The tea stays hot for now.